Pam. I logged in a little early since I had so many technical difficulties last week. Didn't want a repeat of that. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see. Just waiting for a couple more folks to get in. Hey, Emily. Welcome. Happy Friday. Goodness. Are y'all as happy as I am that it's Friday? Because it's been a little bit of a week. Oh, hey Danielle. Thank you, girl. I was trying to get myself together because it's about time to take this stuff down, but whatever. I'm gonna make it do what it do. Oh, I'm super excited about tonight. I'm gonna be talking all about capacity and how that's tied to resilience, how it's tied to your success. Oh, y'all want the music back? Hold on. Wait a minute. I didn't think anybody was gonna get on so fast, so I'm like, let me just get in my groove and such. But yeah, so we got a handful of people. Okay, hey Christy. Okay, love, no worries. You know you can catch the replay. That's totally fine. I appreciate you showing up and being here. Got my P2P sisters in here. So thankful for y'all showing up. This is good. Oh, my shirt. See, it says my lessons made blessings. I realized I just had my whole chest like in the camera, but oops. Yes, yes, and yes. Let me see if I miss anything else. Y'all know I scroll real fast. Real fast. So, okay. I'll give a couple more minutes just because we are right at 6:59 and trying to get better at my timing and being early because I remember hearing that if you arrive on time, you're late. So, really putting things into perspective and getting my time management together. Everybody good tonight? Any plans for the weekend? Drop what you're doing in the chat. Because I know in the Chicago area, there's been a not quite mandatory, but a proposed, hey, stay at home sort of thing because of all the COVID cases having an uptick. So I don't have any plans per se, other than to just relax, um, practice some self care. I'm actually going to take the weekend starting tomorrow and just be by myself and relax a little bit because I haven't done that in a while. I'm really overdue. So that is what I will be doing on the weekend. But feel free to share what you are doing over the weekend, if anything. And if anybody's in a warm state, if you could please send some warm weather to us. We had 76 degrees on, what was it, Tuesday? And by Wednesday, it was 35. So I would appreciate if anybody could send heat in a FedEx package directly to me. So, oh, ooh, that sounds fun, Michelle. I can't wait to see. You're remodeling the bathroom. I like to do stuff like that. Okay, and Danielle, you said it's raining today for the first time of the year. Well, that's good, right? Getting some water into the atmosphere and then working most of the weekend Christy, yeah, going back on lockdown. I already know, sis. I already know. Yeah, Whitney, 35. And I messed around and had to go to the DMV. And of course, they're not letting people in. So we were standing outside. I was trying to be cute, had my little pea coat on, but I did have on some boots. They were cute boots, though, not like the warm kind. When I tell you, me and my sister stood outside for an hour just to get in. We got there about 20 minutes before they even opened, and it was a line like down the block already. So I'm not playing with Chicago no more. I will have a winter home come next year. So anybody have any suggestions? Let me know. I'm going towards Florida. So but anyway, let me go ahead and dive in because it is a little bit after 7, and I know we have a few people in here. Thank you to each and every one of you who are tuning in today. If this is your first time tuning in to me, I am Nicole Roan, and I am your capacity coach. And I help women create balance between their personal and professional life by helping them really get to the root of where they are capacity wise, which is where the capacity coach comes in. Now, if you don't already know, I have been in the HR space for over a decade. So I've been in HR leadership where I've been helping organizations and individuals really create balance between their personal and professional life, but in a more professional capacity. And what I found is that so many people that were coming into my office on a regular basis were coming in to have these one on one meetings with me, but we ended up talking about what was going on personally, which was impacting them professionally. And so after over 10 years of sitting eyeball to eyeball with different leaders, different managers, different associates at all levels throughout the organization, I realized that most of our issues with our balance, whether it's personal and professional, is really tied to our capacity. So I'm here to talk a little bit more about that, tell you how you can get your capacity aligned, make sure that you are staying subscribed to me, that you join me. I do this every single Friday, and I'm going to jump into what we're going to talk about today, which is capacity. And so there are really three key points that I want to inform you all on. I want to talk about that you have to, number one, measure your capacity. We're going to talk about what needs to come off of your plate once you've had an opportunity to measure your capacity. And then we're going to talk about what happens if you don't measure your capacity. And so I want to really start with what the definition of capacity is, because I did a I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago that I called it Check Your Capacity. And in there, I went a little bit more into detail around what capacity is, what it sort of looks like. And so I want to reiterate for you today what the definition of capacity is. And it is the specific ability of a person measured in both quality and quantity over an extended period of time. And so to me, that says that we're measuring what we're able to do. So the quality of what we're able to do and how much of that we're able to do over a standard period or a long period of time. And what I've noticed through my own personal journey is that most of us are running around at max capacity and we don't even know it. And sometimes we get these little signs and red flags and signals that we're at capacity. But if that's all that you know and you're steady running on it, running on E, you're going to kind of put those things to the back burner. I'm here to tell you that you cannot do that because you will end up sick, overwhelmed, frustrated, stressed out. And so I want to take this time to share with you a little bit about what happened to me. After, I want to say it was in 2019, early January 2019, actually 10 days after my 35th birthday. Don't tell nobody because I'm still saying I'm 25, but whatever. Um, 10 days after my 35th birthday, I had just come back from Florida. I was on the beach drinking margaritas, having a really good time. And when I came home, maybe a day or two later, I was complaining to one of my coworkers, Sierra, about how I didn't feel well. And she was like, "Girl, that don't sound normal. Go to the hospital." But me thinking that I was already under so much stress, I know if something is wrong, I don't need to go to the hospital. It wasn't until by that weekend, so maybe, yeah, like I said, 10 days after I'd gotten home, that I literally, my muscles hurt so bad that I couldn't get up off the couch. I was in tears. I was terrified, and my daughter had to actually drive me to the emergency room. And so once I got there, I still felt kind of crazy. And, because I was just saying everything in my body hurt. But after they ran some blood tests, they told me that my CPK level, which is a measurement that they do in your blood to see how much protein is in your blood, because it's not really supposed to be. The normal level of CPK in a healthy person is 200. Mine were at over 200,000. So I was immediately rushed to ICU so that they could flush me with fluids. My organs were starting to shut down. My heart was swelling up. I was literally in ICU. And all of this was because of the amount of stress that I had been under. I'd been running at max capacity. I wasn't measuring it. I was not dealing with emotions. I wasn't dealing with my stress. I really had just kind of checked out and was on autopilot. And so I want to make sure that you are aware of what some of those red flags look like and talk you through how to really take inventory of your capacity. And so the first thing that I always tell clients, friends, and family members is to really measure what's on your plate. So many of us are consistently taking on various projects, saying yes to any and everybody because we don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. We're staying really late at work. We're helping out family members and not even considering ourselves in that. And so before you take on anything, I want you to start thinking about what's already on your plate and can you realistically take on anything else? Because you can't track what you don't measure. So that looks like, even if you got to go old school and write down, like, these are the things that I have to do as a wife or a girlfriend or a mom. These are the different things that I have to do as an employee. And if you are an entrepreneur and you still have a full-time job or even part-time, listing out what you need to do as an entrepreneur and what you need to do for, if you're a caregiver, for example, to a family member. When you see on paper all the things that you have to do, it really shifts your perspective. So that's the main way I would say that you really get clear on what it is that's on your plate. And while you're doing that, I want you to really, I guess, tap into your resources too. Think about who is in your circle that can help you and where you can kind of delegate some of those things. I was having a conversation with my sister the other day, and we say this frequently, that when you take the time to try to even just take care of yourself, that's a whole full-time job. Doctor's appointments, eye appointments, making sure you're eating right, making sure you're exercising, that you're taking care of all the things that you really need to do. It's a full-time job being able to take care of yourself. So when you add into that the other roles that you play and the other hats that you wear, like I said, as an employee, as a friend, as a daughter, like I know plenty of people that I'm working with are, you know, caregivers that aren't necessarily on paper as a caregiver, but by default, like me being the second oldest and oldest sister out of my 10 siblings, it's really, a lot. It's a whole lot that we're putting on our plates. So I want you all to make sure that you're being mindful of what's already on your plate. And when you do that, you have to have a different level of honesty with yourself, right? Like, don't keep lying to yourself and saying, oh, I can take on more, or I should be able to do this, and I should be able to do that because you've been used to doing that. Because just because you've been doing it doesn't mean that you should keep doing it because you're running on E, right? So I want to talk about the next step. Once you've really taken some inventory, identified what's already on your plate, you need to start thinking about what needs to come off. And that's where that network comes in. So, who's in your circle? And this kind of ties into another podcast episode I did around who's going to save the hero. Because I know all too frequently, I've made everybody else's emergency my emergency. And that's not how it works. Because when everybody else's emergency is yours, you don't have the bandwidth, the capacity, the energy, the nothing to really handle your own emergency. So I want to make sure that you are really thinking about what needs to come off. For me, as a recovering perfectionist and recovering control freak, yes, I'm a little bit of a control freak. Want to do everything by myself because nobody can do it like me, right? I've had to learn how to delegate. And sometimes that can be hard, especially when you don't trust anybody else with your stuff. I had to learn how to, even within my household, to depend on my daughter a little bit more because she's 17 and there are things that she can take care of. I don't have to be the one to cook dinner, to clean up, to do laundry, to put Liam to bed, to go grocery shopping, and to do all of those different things. You have to learn how to delegate. And on the professional side, that's something that I have consistently taught different leaders how to do in the HR space, because most people would come into my office and be like, Nicole, I'm so overwhelmed. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do that. And I'm like, well, don't you have a team? I do, but okay. But you hired them to do X, Y, and Z. So don't you think you're stunting their growth by not allowing them to do what it is that you hired them to do? Like, you can't be in all of the transactional pieces and you want to be tactical, right? Like, you want to be tactical, you want to be transformational, you want to be able to create impact in your organization, but you down here, approving timesheets. You got to learn how to delegate. So whether it's personally or professionally, you have to learn the basics of being able to delegate, and that starts with trust. And so I always say that if there is a reason why you don't feel comfortable delegating, I want you to go back and figure out what's the issue with the trust. Is it the person? Is it that I just want to oversee everything? Like, what is your attitude and your mindset towards that? And so once you think about what needs to come off, I can tell you the next thing is learning how to say no. And I think it was last week that Miss Dion said to us that no is a complete sentence. I'm Queen Explanation over here. I always used to feel like I had to explain why I'm saying no. I didn't want to hurt anybody else's feelings. I didn't want to piss anybody off. I didn't want to feel like I was a bad person, a bad friend, a bad mom, a bad sister, a bad any of that. So I would consistently say, oh, yeah, I can do that. Oh, sure, yeah, I can do that. Knowing deep down inside I couldn't, or that it didn't align with, what I had for my goals. And so I want to challenge you to start saying no. Because when you say yes to everything, you absolutely become the last person on the totem pole and on your back burner. And I want us to really work on getting rid of that stigma that's attached to saying no. No does not make you mean. No doesn't make you selfish. No doesn't make you a bad person. No helps you to walk the talk of what you say you want and what you need. And so if you're looking on your plate and you have 85,000 things that you need to do, and because you don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings, you tell them yes, and now something else falls off your plate, that's going to impact how you feel about yourself. That's going to impact your self esteem. It's going to impact your ability to show up for the people that really matter. So, whether that's yourself, number one, your family, your friends, and what you're doing for your business, whether you are an entrepreneur or at work. If you're consistently saying yes to other things because you don't want to hurt nobody's feelings, this you're going to be burnt out and you're going to be frustrated. So I need you to learn how to say no and leave it at a complete sentence. I actually had this conversation with my mom the other day. We were driving and she asked me something, and I said, no, I can't. And then I jumped into explaining why I couldn't. And she shut me down real quick. She said, excuse me, miss, take your own advice. Don't you remember that no is a complete sentence? Don't say nothing else. You said no, it's okay. Don't apologize. I was like, okay, well, you just gonna snatch my edges then. Okay, Ma, thank you. So, yeah, it makes sense for us to learn how to say no. And I want to jump into what happens when we don't check our capacity, when we don't say no, when we don't really put forth the effort to understand what's on our plates. As I mentioned, not only can you become physically ill, but I want you to think about your mental state, right? The mental stress and anguish that comes from trying to figure out everything for everybody. That's stressful. And then that stress and the worrying on how to make this work over here and how to make this work over there absolutely impacts your heart. And I've talked frequently about how our hearts are the center part of our being, right? Not only does it help our blood to flow and, keeps us alive, but everything that we do flows from our heart. And you're putting your heart in jeopardy of being able to really support you the way that it is supposed to when you're constantly saying yes, when you're constantly adding more to your plate when you know you can't add anything else. So not only physically, right, but mentally. Also, it's going to impact you work wise. So there was a time when I was adding things to my plate at work because I felt like I needed to, because being, one of the few women of color, I got to say yes because I got to, you know, earn my spot to be here. But as I did that, I started to really over promise and under deliver. And anybody that knows me knows that if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it and do it well. Like it's gonna be bomb. So when I noticed that I was taking all these different things on and I was under delivering, I was so mad at myself. Like I could have just said no, right? Or I could have said, hey, I don't have the space to do that. So when you are always at max capacity, you can't take anything else on. So I need you to really think about how that's going to impact you showing up at work, especially if you're going up for a promotion, if you are, you know, looking to have an opportunity to make a lateral move, to learn some different things in a role that you're interested in. Like you cannot show up in excellence spinning 1,000 plates. Something gonna fall and break. Also, your family is impacted. I was actually having a conversation with a good girlfriend, Van Nice, who will be on here next week, about how we really do as women, um, we're trying to manage so much. And hold on, I was reading a comment. Sorry, y'all. So we were talking about how it really just is a struggle to balance everything, and that we want to make sure we're doing everything well, and you just can't show up in excellence doing everything all at the same time. So um from a family perspective too, when you are so stressed out about what you're doing at work, or you're busy worrying about somebody else's family, you end up taking that out on the people that you love. And it's not because you don't love the people, it's because home is the place where you're safe, right? And it's the security, and you feel like you can let down your guard. Because when you're at work all day, yes, I can do that. Absolutely. Smiling. And then when you're with friends and you're out faking and saying, yeah, I'm good, girl. Everything is good at home. Everything is good at work. Couldn't be better. Everything is great. When you cross the threshold at home, all of that comes off, and you end up snapping on your friends and family, or the people that you live with, because you're carrying all this stress. And so if you are unable to really put into place some things where you can say no and learn how to delegate and figure out what's on your plate, you're going to end up hurting the relationships with the people that you love. Like people can be understanding, right? But how many times is your spouse or your best friend or your daughter going to make an excuse for you because you had a bad day or because you got a lot on your plate? Well, take something off, because they don't deserve that. So I want you to be mindful of how not managing your capacity impacts your work. It impacts your health, both mentally, physically, and emotionally, and how it impacts your family, because it really, really does. Now, I've been talking, so I'm going to go through and read some of these comments, and I'll ask that if you have questions, please, please, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And as I'm scrolling through, I also want to let everybody know that I will be providing my capacity calculator over the weekend. And if you want access to that, then just send me a message in the DM. Let me know that you want it, and then we'll go from there. Um, so I'm going back, Emily. Yeah, you're talking about the signs and signals that we ignore. There are so many of them, and we just, overlook them or make excuses for them. Um, so yeah. Okay. And Pam, you said that you know this too well. You ended up with a conversion disorder. Wow, I'm sorry to hear that. Um, Danielle, you said that we fill our plates with everything and then our self-care is like a flimsy paper plate. Yes, that's a really good point because, if you don't have that strong Tupperware that you're putting all these different things on, or even in that strong Tupperware, that breaks too. Like, don't be the plate, don't be the Tupperware. You don't want to do that. Your self care is what allows you to show up in excellence for yourself, for your family, for your job. So, yeah. Okay, let's see. Hey, Venice. Yes. Yep. Just say no and don't apologize for it. Yep. Looking through this. Hey, Lacey girl. Okay. Yeah, Danielle, you said it's too much trying to be everything to everyone. And as women, we walk around with what I like to call this superhero cape, thinking that we have to be everything to everybody. And that's not okay because you essentially you teach people how to treat you. And when you start consistently putting yourself on the back burner for everybody else, they get used to that. And I've had so many situations with both friends and family where I used to do everything for them all the time, right? And so the moment that I started to push back and say, no, I can't, or, even if I committed and changed my mind, it was like a guilt trip. Like, well, you said you was going to do X, Y, and Z. I did, but I changed my mind because I can't. And we have to learn how to communicate that and know that it's okay to change your mind. Um, Michelle, yeah, you said we always think we need to overcompensate for being women of color. Yeah, that's a real thing. Like, we got to work 10 times harder. We have to dress 10 times better. We have to talk more eloquently. We have to do so many different things just to be considered equal when we don't even realize that we made it into that space because we already are there. Like, you don't have to do more, but it's a mindset. It absolutely is. Hey, Grace. Oh, Pam. Yes, you said, do I remember at Hometown America? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It was a lot that was going on there. And I don't want to share too much of your personal information, but I just remember you being the only woman of color, aside from myself, but in a more leadership position. Because I started as a receptionist, y'all, doing administrative work, and have worked my way through. Whole nother topic though, but yeah, it was a lot that you had on your shoulders, and really having to show up better and do better, and still not even really getting the same respect. So it was eye opening for me at that level of my career to see you go through what you went through. Uh, let's see. Okay, so Lacey, you have a question. You said, how do we create the capacity we need after being full of the wrong stuff, i.e., maybe wrong career, wrong relationship? Hope you didn't answer this already. No, ma'am, I didn't. And that is a really good question. So, how do you create capacity after you've been full of the wrong stuff? um Part of that really is, and this is something that I talk about in my coaching program that I'll be releasing sooner than later. It's really about acknowledging, right? Acknowledging where you are. And this is where being honest with yourself comes in, and it's so important. You have to acknowledge, the pain, what you've been through, what you're feeling, and feel that pain, And once you have acknowledged that, you got to accept it. You got to accept it where it is, and you got to decide that you want to do something different. So, half of the battle is knowing. And you will hear me say this over and over and over. You know, so now what are you going to do? So you have to make yourself aware, accept where you are, really feel that pain, and decide to do something different. Because look, you're human. Everything isn't going to be perfect. And like my shirt says, my lessons made blessings. I knew that, I stayed in that one relationship way too long. And it impacted me for years and things in ways that I'm still recovering today. But had I not gone through that, I wouldn't know the things that I know. I wouldn't be here to be able to help other women get through similar situations. And the same with being in a wrong career, right? Vanice and I were talking about this earlier. Being in careers that feel like hell. And those experience those experiences really helped me to understand what not only I liked, but what I didn't like. So what I knew I wouldn't accept at another role, what I knew I needed to have in another role. You have to forgive yourself. It's okay. Nobody really goes into anything saying, I know this gonna be awful. Let me just get suited and booted. No. And another thing about that is that oftentimes, and Lacey, we talked about this on the podcast and on the live last week, that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. So once you look at things through that lens, you start to really understand that, you know what, this is a part of the journey. Let me go ahead and take this lesson and keep on going. So really good question. Let me know if that answered it. Trying to see. Okay, I know I scrolled through really fast the last couple of times, so I'm not seeing any other questions in here. I'm gonna scroll through one more time. Let's see. Not seeing anything else yet. Okay. So if there are questions that come up after this, please, please, please make sure you reach out to me. I am a message away. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Um, I really want to encourage you to think about your capacity. And again, if you are interested in a tool that's going to help you really measure your capacity, message me and let me know, and I will absolutely send it over to you, but you just got to send me a message and then I'll get it to you. Making sure that, like I said, you are taking stock of where you're at capacity wise, making some decisions to really do something different, figuring out what needs to come off and why, and then reminding yourself why it is that you need to get these things off your plate. What's at stake if you don't take hold of your capacity? You're only going to be as successful as the amount of capacity that you have. So if you're maxed out, like you can't even enjoy or take a promotion. You're not going to be able to enjoy the vacation that you worked so hard for because mentally you're maxed out, right? So keep that in mind. Again, I really, really, really appreciate each and every one of you. And if you are watching the replay, make sure you drop hashtag replay. We have another podcast, of course, coming out every single Tuesday. So if you haven't tuned into the podcast, it's Flow and Flourish, and you can find it just about everywhere. It's on Google, it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I'm every single where. So make sure that you go and take a listen to that. Next week, Vanice and I will actually be on here, and we're going to be talking about career alignment. So stay tuned for that. I really appreciate each and every one of you guys. I'm going to give you your Friday night back. I'm going to sip some tea and some water, and I will talk to you soon.